up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Source and Company. I am your host, Source, of course. You can always follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Smitty Source on both of those. Follow the Source and Company podcast Instagram, which is Source NCO, the letters NCO podcast. Source, Source and Company on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, blah, 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 blah. All right, pick one, subscribe to it, or pick them all, subscribe to them all. Today's company is, let me see, I'm gonna say is, even though it might be was, but I'll say is. An MC, DJ, photographer, commercial guy, editor, videographer, wedding guy. Like, it's a whole lot of things. I'm probably missing about 5 or 6, but we'll try to count and touch on those in just a minute. Today's company is Adolphus Maples. How you doing, sir?
All right. You might as well just say Maples Media Group. You gotta take the top one and try to work your way down, I guess.
Yeah, it's a lot. So appreciate you doing this once again. How you doing? How has we're kind of not out of it, but we're kind of in a different space at this point from when I started this Source and Company show. How has it been for you over the past 6 months surviving?
And, COVID is one of those things that, everybody's talking about 2020 like a person. They're rebuking 2020, and 2020 is provoking a lot of change, man. It's pushing people to have to change, which is a good part of 2020. I try to focus on what's great about everything, right? So obviously being in the wedding industry, for me, it sucks. Anything that's in entertainment that brings people together is bad, business-wise. But it has also given us time to settle down and look at our processes and go back to figuring out, all right, the things that we say we didn't have time to do because we're so busy working, it's really has the potential to shape up to be one of the greatest pivotal years if you take advantage of it. Because I feel like it's possible to look back to 2020 and realize that that was the best thing that ever could have happened to me preserving my business. Because if I do the things that I'm supposed to do, or the things that 2020 has enabled us to grow to do, then I'm going to be better in 2021. I'm going to be better moving forward because it sat me down and it gave me the time to work on it. And that's what I think about 2020. So yeah, I could focus on the fact of the things that we couldn't do. The biggest problem for me in 2020, we talked about it, for me, is focus, man, because as somebody who, it's hard for you to try to name all these different things in business. For me, that's real life for me. So it's like having all these stores open and people call and they pull you in different directions. And financially, you want to keep doors open. You want to be able to pivot. You want to be able to do that, because being able to sustain right now, we could live off of graphic design and media production, photography, videography, all of those things, those other parts of it, and new branding possibilities. But it also causes us to be multitasked, and kind of like the one part about this year that I will say has been the biggest struggle is the fact that it's unpredictable, and not being able to predict things, at least for me,
right,
kind of sucks, because I don't know what to push the gas on. And I don't know, because partially you got to eat, you got to work, but having the ability to pivot to something else means that you're taking your eye or your energy off of the other thing.
Yeah,
somewhat.
That's a true statement. That's a true statement. A lot of people, even though you see, obviously there's pros and cons to everything, but you can see the con to that you're losing the focus on the one thing. A lot of people don't even have that ability though. So it's a lot of people who are here, and if something happens over here, they just out of luck because they don't even know what this is, because all they have is this. So I can see it being a pro and a con, but you're the one that has to go through it. So your opinion of it is definitely respected.
And that's a great thing, man, because like people say a plan B is a problem. And I definitely have had plan Bs and plan Cs. Being a, we started off with the record label. The record label enabled me to learn a lot about audio production, which is from being an MC and a producer to doing your own album covers. That brought in photography skills, Photoshop. We had a website back in 94 before then. So we had a website early on that we did ourselves. So web design, videography, all of those things would have sustained the record label for what we wanted to do as artists. So coming out of that, you know, I graduated from John F. Kennedy High School, since you didn't know that part.
Had no
Then
idea.
Norfolk State University after that. And even my major in electronics, it wasn't the gig, but actually what I did for the record label, 804 Flavor, Funtown, later Danger Zone Entertainment, enabled me to take those talents and make them into a job, make them into a position, or in future a company. We talked about that.
So the real thing is that your title, I guess, like you said at the beginning, uh, Maple Media is the umbrella. So that's what it is. All those other things are just derivatives of you being Maple Media.
Yeah, Maples Media Group is the umbrella. And, you know, what we decided to share today, you know, it's basically up to you. But, you know, there's a lot of things that on my mind about business. And if this is your business angle of the podcast, you know, we're talking about COVID, or we're talking about business, we're talking about what's happening for me in 2020, then I am looking at business as, yeah, this is an umbrella, but I based it off of my talent.
Mm.
And as a lot of people who do, when you start a business, what was the first thing we wanted to be able to do? A lot of people want to be able to leave their job and work for themselves. That's like a major goal. I hate my job. I know how to cook chicken better than anybody, man. And everybody's like, you should open up a restaurant or you should do whatever it is that you do. And so that person even gets up enough gumption to leave that job and to go cook that chicken. They got to realize that they got to set a system up in order for them to do it successfully, that they can't be the only person that knows how to cook that chicken like that, or they're just going to have one place and they're going to figure out that the biggest part was not only you loved doing what it is that you do or you did that you're going to go and get a job for. Now you have to sustain more than one position doing things that you don't like to do, because now you get into being a marketing person or advertising person. You get into wearing all of these hats, trying to sustain your talent or trying to make your talent into the business. And that's the thing that I'm really trying to work on this year, because the businesses that work really well for me were ones that I was really able to make them into a business that were not solely dependent on my talent or the exceptional talent of one person. Because I've heard it said that if your business depends on exceptional talent, you're gonna fail. It's not gonna be sustainable, because what happens is without that exceptional talent, then you're not gonna be able to sustain it. Even if it's a doctor's firm, or you need good doctors, right? But if you had to have exceptional doctors to sustain your thing, what you need is exceptional methodology, exceptional systems like Chick-fil-A, right? So let's say the Chick-fil-A person, they have a process of bringing them in and sending them through Chick-fil-A school, right? So you got to finish learning what it takes to be a Chick-fil-A employee. But the Chick-fil-A system is amazing. I seen Arby's try to copy the Chick-fil-A drive-through and they sucked at it. But Chick-fil-A, it's not the people that are amazing, because they can hire new people and put them in and teach them the exact same thing, which is the Chick-fil-A system.
Right.
My pleasure. It is all about how they make people feel, and it is all about their service. It's a few things that make Chick-fil-A system amazing and McDonald's system amazing. Um,
So
so that is about business.
is it different in your opinion? Is it different when it's a business based on, oh, well, I guess a small, if it's a small business as opposed to a larger corporation?
Well, look, and then like I'm glad you brought it up because you got to qualify it. There's nothing wrong with having a boutique. There's nothing wrong with figuring out like what it is that you want. All right. So I don't want to just say, oh, it's bad if you started doing something that you did and you were able to make something out of it and work on it as that person. We're talking about businesses, right? If you're talking about having a company, yeah, there is a certain structure to company that people do strategic planning for. You got to think about like Shark Tank. You got to think about like what's your business plan for what do you hope to get to? So people that have to structure business plans and have to live as a business, it falls under certain constraints and things that you have to have in place.
Mhm.
Because that doesn't mean that you can't create a job for yourself or sustain income from doing something that you love to do. But is it going to be a business? Uh, if it's depending on that one person, I don't know that it would fall under business. Now you go like, let's talk about Jazzy Jeff, or let's talk about artists. Is that artist a business? It is. I think they turn into a business when it starts to get outside of themselves, which is if you become a brand ambassador for Ciroc, if you start the clothing line, if you start all of those things is what I believe takes an artist into being a business. Because now you don't have to release music, right? But it's
Right.
certain, that's a whole thing where being an artist, you're able to pivot into being a company. And that's for me is a separation between what's going to determine if you can continue to make money or if the money's going to stop. Because eventually you're not going to be able to go or you can't do what it is that you're going to be able to do. And that means your money's going to stop. Now, maybe you make $1 million doing what it is you do and you don't ever need to work again. So as we talking about businesses and I'm just giving you what's on my head right now and people can take it as take what they can use, bro.
Hey,
Because
that's heavy though. That's heavy though, because and I see what you're saying. Being an artist, if it's just being an artist, then I can see that not being a business because it's hard to replicate that success unless you're the one doing it.
but if you're an artist, man, if you get popular, you make a hit record, you can get to $1 million. You can get to a few of them, but what happens after that when you get the home and you get the car and you get whatever else, you can see how even that model becomes unsustainable because it's based off of the artist and the artist money, and they didn't make it into a business that continues to produce a way to live that particular lifestyle. So
Gotcha.
I think they end up in that's how artists can end up in that situation that you have to start thinking like a business. Kevin Hart is not just sustained off of comedy, or him going and doing stand up.
Hmm.
He can turn it into movies. It's not just him. I mean, he got to go do it. He is the person, but he's turning that into Hart Filmworks or just, you could think about Tyler Perry, somebody who's taken one thing or taken the plays and Medea and made them into, man, just something that is an amazing entity of things. And that's just on its own scale, man. But it is based off of Tyler Perry, but everybody doesn't have that CEO gift.
Fact.
Being a Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and I think it's different from being an artist because CEOs are concerned with vision, bottom line. Man, an artist will go and do their work for free, man. They'll be giving stuff away or they'll just want to see it work. And I'm in that position a lot. Or I'm in that position a lot, like just want to get out there or just wanted to, you know, you feel like you'll get in the position to make it work. And that CEO mentality is different.
Mm.
So in business, there's three tiers of things. You got CEO, you got managers, and you got technicians. The people that do the work and the people that make sure that the work can get done efficiently and the way it's supposed to, and CEOs who keep the vision of the company moving forward. So that's what's next, or how does it all fit? What's the bottom line? What's the profit and loss?
Yeah.
Because like technicians and artists don't necessarily manage profit loss, man. We trying to make the music or do
Get it
whatever
done.
it is, man. What's the profit loss? I don't know. I'm just trying to do what I do.
That's it. That's it right there. And but you in the realm of Maple Media Group are all that. You technicians. You're the I forgot the middle one.
Management,
Management and the CEO.
and CEOs. And that is a thing that if we realize that we're not good at one of those things, bro, it's hard to advance. You know, it doesn't mean that you can't make money and be what people would deem as successful. Because if you can look at how much money certain people we've been able to make per month or doing things, it's like it's success there. But is it sustainable?
Mm.
There's things about business that make them sustainable. When we think about Shark Tank, think about how quickly they look at people, right? And they go like, no, because of this, that, and this, I'm out. That is business success, you know, because when people see, am I going to be an investor in it? They're looking at all of those factors, whether or not I can put this together into something that's going to work to make big money, to make the money that it's going to be worth. And so as Maples Media Group, yeah, working on it. But obviously, I know that there's things and decisions that I need to make as a CEO that me as my technician self gets in the way of, because that's who I'm most strong as. So I started looking at, man, can I get me a surrogate CEO? Or can I get me, like, what management systems can I put in place to keep me doing what I need to be doing weekly, and to keep me on task to what I say the goals are going to be or what I want to accomplish? Because we will get off track emotionally as technicians or artists because we just want to do what it is that makes us feel good, that we love our product. I cook that chicken, or just see people enjoy our food. When really, if somebody's looking at the profit and loss, like, you know, Shane, you saw her restaurant, the man, I got a brain fart. That's right down Southern
Southern
Kitchen,
Kitchen.
and the guy came in, Gordon Ramsay, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He came in and like did the overhaul on her restaurant. That's an example of somebody who had a love for business and got her family involved. And when somebody comes in and says Gordon Ramsay does that CEO thing, which is to say, this is not working like this. You can't have your daughters doing this, and you got to hire people. You got to spend this money. You got to make it your menu like this. Reshape the whole thing and change their business. So, you know, that's an immediate local example of somebody who runs a business.
That's a real one because everybody could see that. That was a few months ago. That was on whatever the name of the show.
TLC, maybe TLC. I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah. So let's jump back a little bit. You said you went to Norfolk State. What did you major in?
Majored in electronics, and I was
Electronic. Okay,
in.
you did mention that, and that wasn't the route, or did
It
you?
never was the route. It never was the route. I don't think. I got in the band when I was there. You know, and trying to figure it out is a thing that I guess is never ending. We talk to my kids like, now, you know, you want your kids, like, you got to figure it out. Like, one's getting ready to graduate from high school, and you're like, man, you got to figure it out, man. But man, figuring it out is deep, because I feel like, man, I'm still trying to figure it out, bro. You know, so yeah, the major that I chose was because I was in the tech center from Kennedy, and I did electronics there, and I like to take stuff apart, man. It was like, what am I going to pick? But I was forced to do that. And me even getting to an historically Black university, I went to J. Sargent after high school, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, whether I was going to college or not. And J. Sargent was like a big high school, and I ended up, one of my professors at J. Sargent said, you need to go to a historically Black college. Norfolk State has open admissions, so apply for Norfolk State. You need to get around people like you and see people that look like you working to be successful, upwardly mobile Black people who are, it's a different environment for you. And that was a major thing for me, because getting to a school and seeing people and knowing like they're cool, they know all the same stuff, they're into the same stuff I'm into, but they're also into that work, and they're also into that. Norfolk State might not be the best example of that, because it might be viewed as a party school, and it was. It was, but nah, anybody is in school, go to college, people are there for, to graduate from Norfolk State is different.
I respect it. I respect it. How did you said you were already in the band. How did you end up, because first thing I know you from is the music. So how did you end up jumping from the electronic world to the music?
And the music was always there from middle school into high school. And hip hop started for me right late middle school, being a beatbox, and then getting into high school, starting to rap in high school. When I was in high school, the band director Bill McGee came. I wasn't in the band. I think it was Mr. Ricks passed, and Bill McGee came, and Bill McGee was in the band room, and I was a cut up. I was class clown. I was really a thing in high school. I wanted to
Really?
be funny all the time. So I'm passing by the band room, and he's playing the trumpet. Bullseye, you hit me, and I didn't know you could even play a real song on a trumpet. I had gone to like Tuckahoe Elementary and Tuckahoe Middle, which is a different part of town. That's a whole different environment than moving to Kennedy, which is a different environment from Tuckahoe. So when I got to Kennedy, around all the Black people over there, Fairfield Court, it was different. But got around my people, saw he could play the song on there, because when I learned the trumpet in middle school, we just played marches and stuff like that. It was like, I didn't know you could play a song like Bullseye, you hit me on the trumpet. So I'm blown away. I bust in the band room and like, yo, I didn't know you could play a real song on a trumpet. And he's in the middle of class. Like, it's a class in there, and I'm just I just bust in the door. And he's like, young man, you can't just bust up in my class. I'm teaching the class here. What's your name? I'm like, Adolphus Maples. Like, Petey Maples. And Petey Maples is my dad, who played in the band with him, ironically, at Virginia State. So it's the chance meeting Bill McGee, who ended up being executive producer on Danja Mowf. He was the first person that put me on the drum machine. Bill McGee did the local talent show that would turn out real big. John F. Kennedy used to have amazing talent shows, because
Yeah.
he came from a past of doing Evelyn Champagne King and playing with Sugar Hill. And so he made a production out of high school students to teach them how to play the music. He might have 7 or 8 people doing parts, just so you can have one person go dee, 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 and he would run band sessions. He's like, we're gonna get it done. I don't care how many people we need to get this done. But Bill McGee is who set me up with he's the most pivotal person in my life. And having to go and do certain DSC evaluations or certain things that show you about your personality, one of those exercises was to kind of go down through the path of things that changed your life path. Like, when did you hit these pivot points? And Bill McGee was in a lot of those times, which one of the major ones was in high school. Meeting him, who I was, I just wanted to rap. So I'm like, yo, help me rap. Maybe you can help me rap like a regular, rap folks was like, yo, man, you got this equipment, man. You know all this stuff, man. Help me get my raps out, man. And he was about, you're gonna have to learn it, all right? Which back then you had to read the manual. It wasn't, oh, go look it up on YouTube, man. You had to read the book. And so it was that, and you got to go to college in order for me to work with you. So those were things that Bill McGee did to make sure that I learned the things. But those processes, and also the love of the presentation or the respect for the presentation, is a lot of things that I got from Bill McGee. So Bill McGee was, he worked to build that Danger Mouth, Super Friends, as executive producer, and the person who really facilitated a lot of the making of the music and the teaching of how to make the music. Because I'd be in the other room like, yo, man, I need to copy these tracks over. Read it in the book. It's in the book. It used to piss me off, man.
You got the answer.
I'm like, you know how to do it. Just tell me how to do it. And now I think about it right now with my kids. I'm like, man, y'all are so spoiled, and you don't even realize it, that any single thing that you want to know how to do right now is a Google search away and probably a YouTube video away from exactly the exact method on how to do it, bro. And you shouldn't be asking somebody. Like, dude, it's spoiled. So I know I might have got off track, but Bill McGee is what led up to me, going to college, and some of the ways that really turned it into what would mold me into the way of being able to do a lot of things in business. But the presentation of stuff, he got us into word processing. We were in PageMaker and Adobe products. This was in 89, 88, 89. So you're like, the desktop computer was just, if you don't realize how this technology shifted, you're talking about AOL just cranked up, dial-up, desktop computers. You're talking about 88, 89, 90 is when those things, like, everybody didn't have that. So we're doing desktop publishing with our stuff and our presentations, going to Kinko's, getting books bound and stuff done, to, going into college and working your way. That was what we did. So those things nurtured that business. And even in business for him, he said, the Super Friends, like this is y'all's label. This is not my label. It's 804 Flavor. That means y'all have to do some work too. Y'all gonna have to look up the names and who we're gonna mail the product to and all of that. Everybody didn't like to do that. We just wanted to be artists. But he's like, look, you guys gotta learn the whole thing, man. And that was big for me.
Yeah, sounds like a big. I mean, obviously, I've seen the name a million times and realized that that was a big part of your life. But yeah, have you shared? I'm sure you've shared that with him over the years, probably multiple times.
Oh, of course, yeah. I let him know. I mean, he's still around and still, working on stuff. He does his jazz records, but I want to work on some more things, in the future. And that's what this year has kind of been pivotal for me as well, is to try to get back to, like, what I would do as an artist too. Like, how does Danger Mouth exist? Like, you're doing a podcast, like, it's things that we can contribute to the world. I feel from what I'm dealing with now is this personality conflict. And somebody wants to know, who am I? Or you meet somebody in an elevator. You imagine, and I'm like, I want to tell somebody what it is I do, but it's complicated because really I do media production. So we can have that media discussion about the agency side of media. So what do you want? Graphic design, photography, videography. What are you looking for? Oh, but do you want anybody getting married? You want a DJ, have a full entertainment wedding service, which does photo booths and lights and fireworks and ground fog and all this. Like, so you're inside different worlds to really capture who you are. And I didn't even say Danger Mouth. And so defining how Danger Mouth exists as a 50-year-old or almost 50-year-old, you go like, all right, so how can I show how regular Adolphus Maples, or the things that are not business, what's that guy into? Like, how does that guy continue to contribute creatively when he's not writing? And that was one of the things that I was telling you, that the guy in the grocery store, just when he said, yo, are you Danger Mouth? And I'm always surprised, like, people just spit that name out to somebody that in this randomly in the store, like, oh, you don't know who Danger Mouth is? Like, I'm like, dude, that's something crazy to just say, are you Danger Mouth? Ask a random dude. So anyway, I'm like, yeah. He's like, yo, man, why you ain't making music no more? You know, and that's a, you know, how you really answer it. Because you go like, why? It's like, because I got kids and a life and I got to pay the bills. It's really not the answer. That's really not an answer. The answer is maybe I got distracted doing that, because his thing was like, man, like the stuff that you did was inspiring to me, man. Y'all understand like what y'all did and the music that you put out. And man, you're probably one of the most talented writers that I know, because the way you wrote stuff, it just wasn't regular, man. It was amazing. And your writing talent, like, you like, that's like a disservice. Like, and he dropped that on me, and he just like, I like apologized to this guy. And all he was saying was, how are you not being great? How are you not really in your gift? Which gets back to, do I want a wedding business? I'm good at DJing. I'm good at a lot of stuff. All right.
That's
so
key.
I'm good at a lot of stuff, man, personally. But also the need to make money and the need to kind of chase the bread has taken me from the first time it happened is getting into the club business. So yeah, I can DJ, I can run a club, and I can advertise. So here come these elaborate commercials that nobody was cutting, these skit-like commercials or song-like commercials. But Source, it was a distraction, because all it was if Timberland or somebody else if it didn't work, and you just start cutting commercials or start doing stuff. So when I go back and listen to them now, I'm like, man, I was so extra with the energy, and that was my creative outlet.
That's it. That's it
So
right.
now I'm being Danger Mouth, who does the commercials, and now the commercials are beyond anything what anybody could expect for $250 a while. Of course I can eat off of it. It kept them coming. And I'm like, shoot, I cut 2 commercials a day. Ain't no job.
That's it. That's it. So you're saying you have those lanes, and you're saying that even though it was enough to sustain the financial part, you still weren't fulfilling your purpose, I guess. Is that where we're going?
Yeah, I think that everybody has a gift that they're strong at. I talked to my wife about her gift as management. Like, you guys worked together at probably Crestar back then.
Yeah, long ago.
Her talent in management is she has a clear cut, like, do this, do this, do this. You know, aligning people to get stuff done. And I noticed that when she participates in things, she gets them done to the letter, right? And so it's a point that people appreciate her and want her to run the thing. Let's say, even if it's like, imagine if somebody's a teen mom or whatever, right? They end up being like, man, it was all together when they were being a teen mom, and now we got a new teen mom, everything falling apart. So
Right.
it's certain things that we recognize that may be our gifts. And I think that's one part of life that we have to pay attention to, is to keep a very good perception on what our gifts are, and when they show up, to make sure that we are exploring the direction that we can let those gifts take us. So if I've established that for a greater portion of my life, which has to go from being a writer from high school all the way through college, all the way till I'm 30 something, at least 32, 33, the greater part of just creating images and stories, that if I have a gift at writing, but I don't write anymore, or I don't create sounds or visuals or things that go together, then I'm not in my gift. I might not even be in my greatness. And for me, when you're good at a lot of things, I think I kind of, like, you know, that master, what they say, what's that quote?
Master of none.
uh,
I feel you.
what's a joint like the master of none? What is it for?
Yeah, but I forgot the first part though.
Yeah, the jack of
Jack
all
of all
trades,
trades, master of none. There you go.
jack of all trades, master of none. So that can be a thing where it can be a problem for me. I think I was able to be talented in a lot of different joints in a lot of different directions that was a little bit above that jack of all trades thing. It's like, nah, I can work with the largest companies in the city as a media person. That means I can work with Johnson Inc. or, you know, Owens and Minor or, you know, VCU as a creator. That's not a small thing. I'm not making flyers for the club. That's substantial amount of money. You know, I can go DJ and set up a DJ company and create something where people send us thousands of dollars without way before the wedding even starts, man. You know what I mean? Like you create something that's sustainable and something that's like, yo, but even with all of that, Mike, we still have to make sure that, you know, are we living in our gift? Are we doing what it is that we were here to do? And if we don't contribute to that, I get my man. He's like, yo, you're doing a disservice to not only yourself, but to me, like the world.
Yeah.
You're not in your responsibility, man. So I'm feeling that right now. I'm like, yo, let me find some time.
I'll tell you this. It's relevant. It's the same thing, but it's not. Long time ago, when I was trying to rap, I remember I was in New York at this guy's studio, right? I'm like, he's like, so what do you do? Or he said, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I mean, I can do this, I could be this, I could do this, I could be this. He said, I didn't say what can you do. I said, what do you want to do? That was the difference. Because I never even thought about the fact that I was trying to fit into whatever would get me to where I thought the ultimate goal was. He was saying, why don't you do what it is you want to do and make that work? Is that relevant to the different lanes?
Hell yeah, man. Knowing what you want is a simple thing, but it's so complicated.
I was about to say, is it simple? Because
No, man, there's a thing in this group Abraham, which is this whole mindfulness thing where they ask, you are knowing what you are wanting, yes? And it's a meditation kind of thing, which comes down to a very simple thing. You are knowing what you are wanting. Uh, and you go like, yeah, I know what I want, kinda, or like, I want to win. But like refining that down, like the guy was saying, all right, what do you want? When my wife asked me, like, what do I like to do earlier this year, man, I was scrambling for an answer because I had to think about it. I don't know, like, I like to get up early in the morning. I like to go and work out. I like to listen to audiobooks and read. I like to, like, no, what do you like? Like, what do you like to do? Like, man, I've been raising kids and taking care of a family. I like to make sure my family's good. But I couldn't really answer the question well enough as to what I like to do. Because honestly, man, we can get lost in being husbands or providers. And especially when you're a goal oriented person and you can get sucked into like things as projects.
mm,
And what is the goal of the project? A lot of times for me, it's been to get to some money. It's been to make sure I can preserve a way of life using my talents. So I
which is
come up
not a
with a
bad
business.
thing, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's got to be.
No, what you say?
It's got to be done.
Yeah, it's something that we have to do. But I've noticed that for myself, that was one of the things that the necessity of businesses. You know, my wife lost her job and it was 6 years ago now. It's been a minute, but that was a big pivot point because she was working corporate, and I was the one that was working for myself. And it's different when you got that insurance to fall back on, and you got that whole corporate side of things. And so when she lost her job, I immediately created two new businesses that I knew that we could make money off of, which was MMG Photo, which was the team photography thing we started because I knew photography. I knew that I could get the accounts because the graphic design with green screen, we put kids on covers, and let's just take it to the next level. And like graphics that no other people can compete with because I'm a better graphic designer than anybody that's doing photography in the city, bro. So I know that we're gonna put these kids on covers and it's gonna be amazing. We're gonna put them on the field. It's gonna be amazing. And that's what we did. And so we took over a lot of the accounts and instantly in 2 months made a business that was like, man, I think we made like 30,000 in January, and she lost her job in November, right?
Mm.
December, I remember sitting down going like, I got to come up with something. I thought of Masters of the Ceremony that year and MMG Photo, and both of those things starting in January, both of those companies. And man, the ability to be able to do that is amazing. It's a talent, right? To be able to brand these companies, start them up, learn how to do it, and make everything work. And we were able to like eat off of it, but we didn't run the businesses right. Family and friends, I mean, the structure, we didn't set a system. And it was the same thing I was saying, unsustainable because there's a way to do team photography. And that is so that you can take the picture and the program automatically places the pictures into the templates and it run through and basically it's a little bit less work. Oh no, I didn't know that way. I knew the guy how to do it like a flyer where you take the picture, the person gets cut out and you put the background over them, you get some overlaying them, it's like, we put a little jump with the ball moving with them, like, but you touching every picture. This is ridiculous. Of course, everybody loves it. And of course, everybody's buying it. But you think that, oh yeah, I'm gonna sell more because my product is better. And bro, that's not always the case, man. It's like a range of good and great. And when you go too far, where you can't create a system around it, where or if you do, then you have to set that system. You can't have the best graphic designer. You got to have a template. And guess what? It's the same pose every time, right? My wife is so amazing with that she was having cheerleaders doing poses because she used to run a cheerleading coach. It was the best poses ever. She would whip up. It's another talent of her. She would combine people together in 5 seconds, yo. Like you down, you up, you stand right here, turn your head like this, blah, blah, blah. Like amazing. Nobody posed pictures like her, right? But then when we started to build up, we didn't have a one her. And we should have set one pose, two poses, and exactly the poses. That would have been the system. So the only reason I'm saying that is because I've experienced how things work well without having a system, and then understand why it was working well and why it's going to crumble or it's unsustainable because it was all relying on this amazing wife who can pose people, kids like no other, and give people these images like crazy, and this crazy husband who's multi-talented in media that knows how to click that camera the right way, these angles, and process these pictures and make something amazing in the computer. These two people, we're able to save our jobs and keep the lights on and go on vacations and everything based on our two talents. And it feels great, right? Until you realize that it's just y'all.
Goes back to the first thing you were saying. Exceptional. And y'all were the exceptional. Then if somebody comes behind you and tries to do the same thing, and they don't have either of the talents, and they're just like, well, they can do it. I know we can do it too. No, you can't.
Yeah. And me and Lonnie B argue about that concept of don't let great be the enemy of good. And because I'm more involved in these separate businesses, and Lonnie is, he's a whole entity in himself, that it is based off of he's in the greatness. But we still have these discussions because Lonnie will let great get in the way of good, which is getting it done and finding a way for it to be even above average. You know what I mean? And as perfectionists, man, we start to get in our heads about, nah, this has to be the most amazing thing ever. Let me figure out how to just, man, just really blow everybody's mind. Like, let me research how everybody's doing it. Now let me think about how I can make it. And bruh, really, when it comes down to it, you want to start a radio station, you want to start a podcast, bruh, just follow the rules. Just follow the guidelines of what somebody has already done ahead of you and deal with that as version 1.0, like the iPhone 4, 5. They keep coming out with iOS updates. They didn't wait to get it right, man. It was not right. And they keep releasing updates. And mentally, if we accept that in ourselves and our businesses, then we'll go ahead and release it. Go ahead and release that thing, man. But respecting how you start is important because there are so many nuances that come down to logos, colors, placement. It's, man, it's a thing of it can be some small things, man, that we don't give enough credit to that determine how great our success is going to be.
I saw
This is
something recently that said, don't start the business. You can make it perfect later.
yeah, that's the perfectionist thing. Mike, I don't have it figured out, and we all take on all of this different information, and nothing is a hard rule where somebody didn't succeed doing something a certain way.
True.
So we can't sit up here and say there's no exceptions to a rule, but we can say there's certain things that we can safely say that are going to make it so that you can be successful in running a company. So which things you use and what you take from it, I think that we do have to pay attention to a model that's already created and to figure out a way to make that model your own and without sabotaging it. Because I know I'm down for that.
So I'm bringing this up because you've already mentioned it before we started, and you said it was fine. So you said you had started therapy, right?
Yeah.
Had your mind open to some of the concepts that you're speaking of prior to, or were these things that had developed through? I mean, I don't know how long you've been doing it or whatever, but are these things that
Yeah.
you already knew, or it kind of happened since then?
Man, I've always been a DIY kind of guy. So I've been more like I listen to my Audible. I feel like there's a lot of books out here to deal with topics. And, like I said, there's a lot of information on YouTube. So I was already trying to figure out a way to navigate my own personality, the reasons why I do things, what I could do to improve those things, to make sure I keep my life balanced and so I can be successful. I started meditating, which was hard for me. But because these things work for certain people, I want to be open to them. And there's a lot of people that use therapy for different ways. And thankfully, I don't need therapy for trauma or because I haven't gone through something, but I am using it to try to expose or to continue to pay attention to those tendencies that I have within myself to be in my own way. The conflicts that I have with the personality of who I am and which person I am, and to try to see, how I can figure out the way that I want to manage those personalities, which is the need to show that Danger Mouth or that creative side of me has an outlet. It's still great. It still participates in contributing to the universe for that gift that I was using for so long that all of this stuff in here was collecting dust on. Like, that's not right. So, but still find a way to make sure that the family is good. And, you know, what is the mix of those things? So yeah, therapy has been something that is kind of exposing those things to me, to think about like things like making decisions for me, which is one of those things that, being a perfectionist, I always want to make sure I'm making the right decision. But that can become crippling, because for somebody like me who has like this decision anxiety, we want to make sure that the choice that we're making is 100% correct. So I want to look through and see all of my options, or make sure that I feel comfortable with it before pulling the trigger. So one of the things that I have to do now, I'm working on, is making quicker decisions about anything. Go to the restaurant, pop, pop, pop. Let me look. I'm going with this salmon. Put it down. You know, because it's a practice in making sure you understand that nothing went crazy because you made a decision quickly, or you evaluated it and you made it and you got past it. So we can sit here, and I know that's a big thing for me, because I wouldn't even plan my week, or I get stalled on planning my day, and I'd have the planner and I set it with the stuff to do, but I feel like, man, I like to be in the flow. So I had a therapist talk to me about flow, float, and flood. And those concepts are, she said, I want to be in the flow. I like being in the flow. It's definitely me. That means that I'll keep taking stuff on. I was like, Mike, I'm not trying to set this interview back, man. I know that my wife wants me to help her set up the day, and then she wants to go to brunch, but then let's go ahead and slide it in at 3, because then I can get that in before I get the kids to cut the grass. And then on the way there, I'll pick up my son from work, and then we'll come back and I'll fix it. Like, but I haven't written it down. But that's that freestyle part, I believe, in what we get. And when you show up to a gig, do I want to know exactly what I'm playing? No, sir. I want to come in, I want to evaluate the room. When I really could plan that set out, like, you know, Kid Capri and them, they show up, they know exactly what they're going to play, right? Nah, I'm not going to decide what I'm going to play just yet. I might decide how I'm going to start. But all of that's kind of linked in, man, to wanting to making decisions. And being in the flow too much means you keep continuing to take in flows. You keep taking stuff in. Well, if you keep doing that, you end up in the flood, when really you're trying to manage the flow. That means that you got to stop some stuff. You got to not take stuff in, because the ideal place is to be in the flow, which means everything you're trying to do is managed and you haven't taken on too much. But my personality is one that I love the flow. And I get into like, you know, somebody be like, can you do such and such? I'd be like, let me think about it. How can I fit that joint in? And at one point, it was financial.
Right.
Because when you work for yourself, you can't tell people no. You don't want to tell people no, because they're not coming back for that website next month. They're going to get somebody else to do it.
Correct.
So, you know, having a business where you can get other people, or you have people doing it, is great. But for me, it was just me. So yeah, let me see how I can juggle it. Man, it's bad. You know, how do you feel about multitasking?
Personally, not like that. I mean, I have no problem multitasking, but I would never, it seems like a lot. It seems like a mental draining that you kind of put yourself under by your own doing.
Yeah, and they say multitasking is a myth. Only certain things you can do multitasking.
Right, because you can't
And
put
I
your full
don't.
attention to the one thing.
Yeah, you got to put your full attention on something. So multitasking is bad. But as we get into more and more technology, Mike, that's like me putting my phone away. Like when you have 6 emails, you know, and then this joint pops up for the new bride, or the planner wants to answer this, or the league is hitting you up about this, or, you know, Lonnie's texting you about coming by the studio to work on the mix, or like they come from all different places, and they're hitting all of my different personalities, or all of the stores that I opened up from Maples Media Group, some of which were necessary financially. So one of the things I was thinking about even this year, the business change, or especially at the end of last year, was, why do I choose to do what I choose to do uh, when the money's okay, and when I don't need the money?
Mm.
Uh, because one of the things I did was I was able to lock in, one contract that basically sets a foundation for all of the bills that I need to pay, right? Let's say that always happens. So no matter what I do, I don't have to worry about going to DJ, right? For example. So now I can place people in position to do something and pay them and not use the excuse, which was before, is like, I'm only booking DJs to DJ weddings after I filled up the date for myself. Then that's logical, right? But it's not logical when you're trying to set up a system of selling and providing a service that is not based on Adolphus or Mowf. It's just based on the company brand and you coming and asking for a service. So, man, that's been a growth thing for me.
And can the quality be the same without you? Well, yes, it can if the system is in place. And
Not
between good and great is where it is.
That's why I was telling you about the exceptional people do not help your business. They don't exceptional talent is not helpful to your business. You need exceptional people who maybe run your process well, but if it's hinged on that person and that person says, hey, it's been nice, I got another job paying more, now it's like, damn, how am I gonna find somebody? Man, Susie was answering the phones and baking pies and she was doing everything, man. Now I got to find 3 people to replace Susie. That's a bad business structure, man. And that's how a lot of people end up in. That's how it happens with us.
That that is
So
that is like that's deep. I hope that people that hear this like understand what you're saying because what you're saying is probably over my head, but I get it. I get what you're saying. It's deep. It's a deep thought process, and most people are not going to just look at it at the surface and be like, yeah, you gotta think about that thing for a second.
yeah, it's levels to everything. It's
Yes.
levels to everything, Mike. And you find them out. The more you work inside something, we want to win, and it's levels. So one, I remember like when we started something and you were doing what you do, and then somebody pays you to do it. That's like, I could leave this job, or like I did it, and it's like, man, it's such a caveat because really, you can end up having to work for yourself, which means you took on 3 positions when you only had one, and so I just say that to be careful with it because this is about business. This is a business podcast version, man. Because we go back to hip hop, rap, production. We could talk about any personality right now.
Yeah. That's the thing though. We did a smooth hour easily and only on business because you're multifaceted. Well, mainly on business, I should say, because you're multifaceted. And we didn't even touch on. We didn't say, "Are you that somebody?" We didn't say super anything. We didn't say producing music. But not in detail. But
Yeah,
it goes back to being exceptional. So for me, I mean, I feel like you said master or jack of all trades, master of none. But
yeah.
I feel like it's being exceptional at a lot of different things. So that is different. But that's what makes you different to me.
Yeah, but I got to be transparent enough, man, for people to look at it and say, like, is that a good thing, or what's good about it, and what things I'm working on? Because I know those struggles or things that I feel like if I was able to show up as a different person at different times, then we would have had a different conversation in different points in my life. And when I was signed to Missy, like I was not the person I needed to be at that particular moment to maximize what that was. Because even as a rapper, and man, us being prepared to be who we need to be when it's time to show up, timing has been a lot of things for myself as an artist producer, super friends, the consistency of doing stuff, and what we were ready for when the opportunity presented itself. And I'm not gonna go back and beat myself up or anybody up on being ready, but I think it's something that you can accept that moving forward. I know that I've been able to take advantage of certain things that have come about because I put the work in to be prepared for that opportunity. Um, when I when we did the "Are You That Somebody" remix was theoretically an accident.
I was gonna bring that up because I remember you had done the verse for DJ Reese, 50 Tons, 100 Lungs, and
Yeah,
I actually ran into him after everything popped off. He was like, "Man, Mowf did that for me," blah blah blah. And I was like, "I believe it. Like I know it's true." So, and that was just the beginning of that one thing.
I did everything I could to try to preserve that for Reese, man. And because I'm a loyal cat, and I was like, so like that was for Reese, and it was moving on its own, man. It was starting to move on its own, and Mike Street was a big part of it getting on the radio. Mike Street was a big part of it putting it on the song, man. And Mike Street said, if you attach it to the song, I'll play it because my freestyle. And then attaching and putting Skills on it was a ploy to hopefully get Timberland involved. And Skills was like, well, let's not put Lonnie on it because it'll seem like too many people on it. And then when Timberland heard it, he ain't bat an eye. That was all in one weekend. And then when they put Lonnie on it, because it didn't matter at that point. I mean, from Skills' concept, so by Monday, he was playing a different version with did I go out
You good?
with Lonnie on it. And you know, that was at a point, man, we were hip hop artists, right? And even so much, that's why I was apologizing for writing that verse at the beginning of it. Real MCs can rip over anything was a qualification for me rapping over that beat. At the time, I was hiding it in the headphones because I didn't want anybody to know I was rapping over the Timberland beat because they would probably feel like it's weird. Like, why would you rap over that? Because we were in the 90s and still hip hop artists. It was really about being a great rapper. It wasn't, it was denouncing what was happening with Puffy and that wasn't really the groove. I mean, you know, we like Biggie and all that, but it really wasn't the groove when you were a hip hop artist. So wanting to rap over that joint and not be double time like Bone Thugs was
Right.
the reason why the flow was not trying to be strictly double time for me when I wrote it. That's why I was like kind of skipping across it to find a way to be what it was. So, I mean, it was honestly a thing that was an accident but I didn't know. The point of that is that propelled me to get noticed. All right. So to get noticed and to get signed off of that with Missy, you know, I rap for her in other ways too, different styles. So it was sustainable kind of. I was there with it, but it was a struggle because I wasn't Ludacris. I was still hip hop backpack. And I needed to be able to try to morph quickly or be the male version of Missy, which in many ways is Ludacris.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I see that.
it was ludicrous. It was to be on the flow and really just kind of like spit stuff on the flow. I mean, just really concentrate on flow, not on wordplay or lyrics.
Right.
And not to say that Ludacris is not a lyricist, but Ludacris was more of a antics kind of
Yeah.
rapper. But anyway, I couldn't find a lane to be. I couldn't really hit that joint, and I wasn't getting any help from them either because I think that putting me in the same situation, which is over a Timberland beat, over something that is unusual or something that is like to continue to put me in a situation, but they didn't never do that. So I was on my own to try to produce on our own something that stood up to the standards of Missy and Timberland. And bruh, I tell people all the time, it's not an accident why they are where they are. Their work ethic, man, it's so many times I've been reminded about that in different industries that people are where they are for a reason.
Mm.
And we sit up here and you say, don't beat yourself up. My therapist always say I'm hard on myself, right? Uh, People are where they are for a reason, man. And when you go and you sit in the studio with Missy and you realize that she wrote 6 songs that day, like they kept them coming. And I was like, man, that joint's kind of whack, man. I don't know about that joint. And they keep coming, keep dropping them. Then she came back to that other one and redid it. And I was like, oh, snap. That joint's sweet. She changed the whole joint. I got what you want, what you need. I was like, damn, she flipped it. Because it was whack earlier. But she did like 6 joints in one day. Bruh, if you do 6 records a day, how many did you do that week?
Right.
And how many hits are possible when you are performing on that level? Bruh, that's the same type of, like, I don't say we don't work hard enough, but everybody who has that really, that work that hard, or anybody that produces like that, it's easy to win. I mean, you say for them because you're talented, but they also worked a lot of volume. So they have man, you gonna come up with some stuff and you gonna catch some hits in there.
That's fair.
Anyway, I digress.
That's fair. That's fair. The more you have, the more chances there is that you're gonna catch one.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Bro, I ain't gonna hold you much longer. Um, shoot, I'm glad we at least touched on that because I couldn't like go all the way out of this thing without touching on something music related.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mike. I want to make sure I don't know how many percent my phone has left.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
see the jump
We'll
pop
end
up.
it on this. How have you had to change your have you had to change your approach to fatherhood within this last 6 months? Not because of COVID, but because of everything else that transpired. And you know, you can take that wherever you want it. I mean, we'll leave it at that.
I mean, sadly, it's not a new conversation. It's one you got to continue to have as a Black man with 3 Black boys, which I have. And it's the most frightening situation to deal with, because you realize that you can try to protect them from a lot of things, but you know that the amount of obstacles that they are going to run into in life, and now with one of them being police, uh, you know, it just makes it so that you're telling your kids to basically, for lack of a better word, be a punk whenever you come in a situation with police, or just be uh, as humble, or as like, you know, you're saying just, I found myself having this discussion, and that's the conflict that I have with it, because it's like I'm trying to teach you to be a man, and your manhood is about certain things. But it's a conflict when you say, but if you get stopped by the police, tune down that testosterone. I mean, make sure that you are not being too manly or challenging. And if you do get challenged, then don't challenge back. I don't care how bad the situation is, how unfair the situation is, just don't fall into that trap. Don't get sucked into it. And it's rough because now you're just basically saying, you know, not necessarily don't be a man, but this is how you be a Black man and come home. Just do what they say do, and don't put yourself in this situation. So, man, the conversation doesn't stop, and it continues on. And I think we go there so frequently. Like, yeah, go. Which one are you talking about? What was the last one? You know, the guy that got shot in the back. That's weird because I don't even know what he was doing. I know part of it. We can fill in the blanks on some of it. But the biggest thing I have to remind myself about is that, you know, a lot of people don't want to get arrested anyway. So not wanting to be arrested shouldn't be a death sentence for anybody, because I know a lot of people decide that they don't want to be arrested, and they don't die because they decide that they don't want to be arrested. So I don't know what the whole story is for that, but it does seem like for us, we can't move certain ways. And when I first looked at it, I was blaming the guy. Well, I was upset at the guy because
For walking away?
I was upset at him for walking away because I was talking to my son. So basically, when I looked at him as a black man, I was going like, dude, I don't know I don't know what's going on, but why are you walking away from the police? And they got their guns out. Like, dude, why are you still walking? Like, why are you going to your car? I was saying that to him, like, don't you know that you'll get shot? Because for me, I'm thinking about how I talk to my sons. And now I would be mad at my sons if they did that. Because I would be like, son, didn't I tell you? I don't care what you were there to do. I don't care how fair it was. You should have stopped and laid your ass on the ground, did whatever you had to do, right? It's not right though, Mike.
Exactly.
It's not right. But I'm mad at them if they did that, because I would be like, son, didn't I tell you to basically be a little punk when they come around? And I don't care. But dad, you know how they do. I ain't even had nothing to do with it. And they was just like, nah, you don't listen to me today. I don't care. You just do what it is. Because we've been in a situation where we know somebody that's been approached by police, or we've been approached by police and just treated like driving while black or standing while black or just whatever while black, and stuff happens. So I'm saying, son, I don't care what they said. Stop, listen to them, hands up, hands out, get on the ground, do everything they say, comply. So I'm assuming that he wasn't complying at a certain point, all right? So I'm mad at him like a dad, and I'm mad at my sons because you could have died. But it's wrong, Source, because you don't have to want to be arrested, dude, you know? And obviously it's not a thing, because I'm like, well, he could have had a gun in the car. You know, police shoot people for less, black people for less.
They shoot black people for less, indeed, and somehow manage to not shoot other people for more.
Yeah, it's clear. It's clearly a problem. So I'm just saying that initially that's how I felt about it, because it's a weird feeling being black, man, because you want everybody to come home. You know what it is. You know what it is, man. Look, let's just get home to people that love you. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop trying to prove something, or stop like trying to be the one that's like, it's bad to say, like, you should fight for your right. Like, not me today. Listen, I'm telling you, like, don't fight for your rights, dude.
I hear you.
That sounds crazy. You remember the guy that got snatched out of the car? Did you see that one when the police officer was like, all right, here's the show, ladies and gentlemen. The guy was like,
oh yeah.
And I was the whole time I'm going like, dude, like, just stop filming him. Like, yo, just put the phone down. Like, come home. Like, get home. But what I'm asking him to do is be a punk around the cops, or don't have any rights around the police. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's not right.
Terrible situation, but hopefully with everything that's going on in the world, and especially in our city, we'll get closer. I'm of the mindset that there's never going to be this. There's no equality. Like, the race is too far. It's too much of a head start for things to be equal. But if you just come into the situation and you don't pay attention to the details, you might be like, oh, it's all good. We good. We the same. Yeah, no, we're not. And that's why so many people are surprised when they see things or they hear things, when they actually listen to people talk about it, and folks that have experience up close.
Well, George Floyd was a pivotal point, man. But it's also,
But why though? That was I was like, why, other than the fact that everybody's at home, why is this particular murder more than the one where they shot somebody who was in their house playing a game, or they shot somebody in the street, or they said somebody looked like somebody and shot them, or they shot the man that was laying there helping another man? Like, how did that become the one?
The visuals of it was so stark, and the man asked for his mama, And it's a combination of things, because I believe it's the visuals. I just go to that. The visuals were so disturbing for everybody that it's like we've never gotten that close to where people could inject or could not inject enough doubt into, like, well, what they were doing, who are they, what happened. Like, everybody who was looking at that was like, yo, he still got his knee on his neck, or he didn't have to have his knee on his neck, and sit there and watch him like, yo, he's killing him. The man says he asking for his mama, and then everybody got to watch that. So even people who are on the fence with it, or support police, or don't understand the Black perception or experience with cops, saw that and said that was a murder. And it was one of those times that just fit, where it's like, yo, that's wrong. And I know there's a certain set of people who are like, police are there to protect and serve, and I believe that he had a reason to do it, and he knew what he was doing, and he was doing it the right way, the way police do it. But there was no escaping that one visually. It was hard, and it affected things. The problem is, Mike, it's so deep, and it's so ingrained that even with all of the rioting and all of the unrest, we are still, I don't think we're that much closer to solving that problem.
Right.
Because it's just complicated. And I mean, we got to be close. I mean, things are happening to change the way police. But I don't know, because I sat up the other day wondering, like, well, what's the status on all these joints, man? What's up with Ahmaud Arbery? Do I need to type and look it up? Like, are they locked up, or what happened with those dudes? Those are just regular dudes, right? So they locked up, right? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know what the latest is on them after they got locked up, after they got arrested. I don't know, but it not that long ago. So not, but so much could have happened. I'd hate to be ignorant on the fact, but
I had to check it out. Breonna Taylor, what's the guy's name that in the Wendy's parking lot, then they shot him in the back.
I must say Elijah McClain.
Yeah, it's bad that you can't even remember enough names. They keep running,
and that's the end of it. They keep happening, and see the difference. That's a terrible note to end on.
Hey, Mike, man, you brought it up, man. Now it's relevant, and we can talk about different things, man. We do a different show on that. Anytime you want me to, jump on the podcast, or you got something you want to toss out, I'd be glad to talk about it.
Appreciate it, bro. Once again, people, this is, I haven't said it in a long time, Adolphus Maples, a.k.a. Danja, Mowf, AD, all the names, all businesses. And I appreciate you jumping on, bro.
Okay, likewise, man. Take care.
I'll share.
Peace.